Mr. Hardy here, and in this video I would like to teach you about Act 5, Scene 7 of Macbeth by Shakespeare. As per usual, you need to be familiar with this scene already. You may have read it, listened to it, watched it, or studied it before, and you're using this video for revision or to gain a deeper understanding. And as per usual, I'll start by summarising the plot of the scene, looking at the key characters, themes, context, and quotes we find in this scene, and leaving you with a couple of tasks you can do at the end of the video to solidify your knowledge. So, what happens in Act 5, Scene 7 of Macbeth by Shakespeare? Well, the scene opens up on Macbeth, and he is comforting himself inside his castle, and he's really relying on that second prophecy that none born of woman shall harm him. And he says, "What's he that was not born of woman? Such a one am I to fear or none." So he's saying he won't fear anyone who's born of woman, and according to logic, pretty much every man is born of a woman, so he should fear no one. He's immortal. As he finishes saying this, young Siward comes along. This is Siward's son, and he arrives and he confronts Macbeth, and he uses a lot of hellish imagery. He uses the word hell, he uses the word devil, he uses the word hateful, and this really presents Macbeth as the devil, and being in Macbeth's presence as being in hell. Young Siward and Macbeth fight. The stage directions literally say fight, and then finish off with "and young Siward slain." So Macbeth slays, kills young Siward. After this victory, Macbeth's confidence grows and he exits. He says to himself, of course, young Siward was born of a woman, therefore I'm able to kill him. And it reaffirms that prophecy that none born of woman shall harm Macbeth. As Macbeth leaves the stage, presumably to go and do more fighting and to try and kill more of his enemies, Macduff enters the stage and he expresses his desire to find Macbeth and to seek revenge for his family. He actually says that he hopes Macbeth is alive because he wants to be the one to kill Macbeth, and that his family won't leave him in peace. Their ghosts will haunt him if he's not the one who kills Macbeth. So Macduff desperately wants to be the man to slay Macbeth and get revenge for his family. Macbeth then exits the stage. Macduff then exits the stage, and Siward, who doesn't know that his son has been slain, and Malcolm enter the stage. And Siward reports to Malcolm, because he's a good soldier, that the battle is going well and they're going to be victorious today. And Malcolm makes a comment that actually some of their enemies aren't their enemies, they're actually working with them to overthrow Macbeth. That's how much Macbeth is hated. Some of his own forces have joined sides with the English army to actually work against Macbeth as well. So, who do we have in this scene? It's a very short scene, but Shakespeare's packed a lot of characters into it. We start off with Macbeth, and he comes across as seeking comfort. Bear in mind at this stage, Macbeth has lost pretty much everything. His wife is gone, he is childless, his best friend Banquo is gone, there is an entire English army trying to take the throne and the crown away from him. He's been left with nothing, so the only comfort he really has is the witch's prophecy, these supernatural predictions, and he seeks comfort in the "none born of woman shall harm Macbeth" prophecy. Shakespeare does present him as a great warrior. We can see that he kills young Siward, presumably because young Siward's father is Siward, who is a great warrior. Young Siward would have been trained in how to use a sword and a shield and how to fight, so killing him wouldn't have been an easy feat, and this shows just how skilled Macbeth is as a warrior. We know this already from all the way back in Act 1, when he was defeating King Sweno and the Norwegians and the traitorous Thane of Cawdor and the traitorous MacDonald. We know Macbeth's a great warrior, and it's kind of cyclical that we see him being a great warrior again towards the end of the play. Some critics would argue that Macbeth is a senseless killer at this stage. Why does he have to kill young Siward? Couldn't he injure him? Why does he have to keep on resisting the English army, even though thousands of people have come to dethrone him? Are all these deaths in the final few scenes of the play, are all of them senseless, are all of them pointless? That's an interesting question to ask yourself. Or does Macbeth genuinely believe he is immortal, that none born of woman shall harm him, and therefore he goes on a killing spree to protect his crown? These are decisions for you to think about. We have young Siward, and he is presented as an honourable young man, but foolish. He's challenged Macbeth, who is a superior warrior. He shouldn't have done that, and he paid the price for it. He died. Macduff is presented as desperate for revenge, which is pretty similar to previous scenes in Act 5. He wants to avenge his family, which is quite understandable. Siward, as per usual, is presented as a professional soldier. He observes the battlefield and he comes up with his prediction that today is going to be Malcolm's day. He's going to overthrow Macbeth and the battle will be theirs. Malcolm doesn't say much, but in his presentation in this scene, we get the impression that he's the rightful king. Malcolm says, "We have met with foes that strike beside us." Even Macbeth's army believes that Malcolm is the rightful king and supports him and turn against their own master, Macbeth. Thematically, we have the supernatural in this scene. We don't see them. We don't see the witches. We don't see God, anything like that. But what we see is the influence of the witches. Macbeth is clinging on to the "no man born of woman shall harm Macbeth" prophecy. Even though the Birnam Wood to High Dunsinane Hill prophecy has been proven false, and even though there's that third prophecy of beware Macduff, Macbeth is finding comfort in this "no man born of woman" prophecy. This shows just how much Macbeth trusts the supernatural, and I think Shakespeare's giving a warning here, particularly because we know King James I was against witches and the supernatural, and he wrote a book called Demonology about them. I think there's a clear message from Shakespeare here saying to his audience, do not trust witches to the extent Macbeth has, because it will lead to your downfall. We also have the theme of violence. The play opens with a violent battle that I mentioned earlier between the Norwegians and the Scottish, and it ends with a violent battle between the English and the Scottish. You can call this a cyclical structure or a cyclical narrative, when you start with an idea and you end with an idea. If you're being really clever, you could point out that at the start of the play in Act 1, a traitor to Scotland died. The old Thane of Cawdor and MacDonald were both killed because of their treachery, and towards the end of the play, a new traitor of Scotland dies, Macbeth himself. That's another cyclical element of the play. Contextually, I want to introduce the idea of an honourable death. It's not a huge contextual piece of information, so this maybe isn't one I'd spend ages trying to memorise or work into your essays. But the idea of dying honourably or dying well, young Siward dies honourably. He dies defending Scotland's freedom. He dies trying to liberate Scotland from Macbeth. He dies for an ethical and moral reason. And this is an idea that the Jacobean audience would recognise and would link to nobility. Noble men in England would have died for their country, for their king, for their queen, for their family name, for their honour, for their legacy. These were kind of honourable ways to die. And the same would have been true in 11th century Alba Scotland, with this warrior culture, the idea of dying to protect your land from an enemy, or dying to protect your god or your family or your pasture or your animals from other wild animals. The idea of dying to protect, to serve, dying honourably would have been a familiar concept at the time as well. Key quotes. I like how when young Siward refers to Macbeth, it is very hell-like. It's hellish imagery. He says in hell, he says the devil. These are quite clear links that you can make between Macbeth and the devil. It's metaphorical. Macbeth, after he kills young Siward, says, "But swords I smile at, weapons laugh to scorn, brandished by men, that's of woman born." So he's smiling, he's laughing, he places so much trust in this witch's prophecy that none of woman born shall harm Macbeth, that he's willing to laugh at his enemies' swords and laugh at his enemies' weapons, because he's thinking that he is immortal. What he doesn't realise is that the witches have already tricked him with the Birnam Wood to High Dunsinane Hill prophecy, And there's also that third prophecy of beware Macduff, that Macbeth hasn't factored in his arrogance. And finally, we have the quote, "Tyrant, show thy face." Tyrant is a great way to describe Macbeth's rule. I have a lot of students who say, "Sir, I can't memorize big quotes." To that I say, surely you can memorize Tyrant. This is a good way to describe Macbeth, particularly towards the end of the play. So you can make some notes from this video on a physical copy of the play for your revision. You could also try answering the question, how is the idea of a noble death presented in the play Macbeth? The obvious example would be young Seward in this scene, but if you're really thinking carefully, there might be other examples of noble deaths. Consider how Banquo died, and in doing so allowed his son Fleance to escape. How is that presented as noble? If you've got really good memory, the traitorous Thane of Cawdor, when put on trial, admitted he was in the wrong before he was executed for his crimes. So he accepted guilt and blame, and he died with a clean conscience. Is that kind of honourable? Is that kind of a noble death? There might be one or two other examples you could think of. You could also look at deaths that might not be noble. How King Duncan was betrayed by Macbeth, how Lady Macbeth, it is suggested, took her own life. Maybe you can contrast the idea of an honourable death, a noble death, with the opposite idea. If you found this video useful, please give it a like. Please also consider subscribing to my channel for the rest of my Macbeth analytical videos, and feel free to leave a comment if you think I missed anything out. Well, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you on the next one.